name's David White. We're out here in the Long Bar Pointe area of Manatee County. Just wanted to talk for a minute about how special this area is to me. And it's one of the last undeveloped coasts of mangroves, natural mangroves, here in the Manatee County area, which makes it really unique. There was a couple areas that we had before, but they've since been developed. But it's a hotbed, I guess you could say, for just old Florida life in the area, the way things were before everything kind of got developed and progress happened. One of the areas that were developed is right down here past the Long Bar Pointe area. It's called El Conquistador Parkway, and the whole face of the coastline has changed. What used to be, natural oyster beds, here we're on an oyster bed, and oyster beds filter out all of the sediments that are in the water that, kind of keep our water clear and what so many people enjoy, nice clear water. And that area has changed a lot because they dredged. There's some docks there now, and it's kind of just changed the face of the landscape. There's another place that was just put up called Neal Preserve. I'm not sure the name of it, but I know it was put up by Neal Communities, and I don't know, I guess if you like the way that things were, and natural and nature and wildlife, they have to clear out a pretty large area to put in their homes, and it's made a noticeable change. I know that there's plans to dredge and put docks and possibly a marina in, and it just changes the whole face of the landscape. And it's important that we preserve the Long Bar Pointe area because it's like I said, one of the last undeveloped coastlines, in Manatee and Sarasota counties, where you can go for a stretch and not see another home or a human being, or you can actually get out and get away from everything, and it's one of the few places where you can still do that. And I think it's important that we keep places like that. Well, I'm not an environmental scientist, but I mean, when you take things out and away, it's naturally going to change the environment around it. I mean, it's a food chain, it's a whole ecosystem that when you come in and dredge and pull everything out of an area, or you pull something from somewhere else and fill it in an area, it's naturally going to change the landscape, the ecosystem, and have an effect on the plants and the wildlife around it. Bird species around the Long Bar Pointe area, they vary from season to season. Like right now it's winter time, so this is one of the few areas where we get the annual migration of those large white pelicans, and they come here in droves. It's pretty unique to see those. It's one of the few areas in Manatee County where I actually see them. I see them here, and I see them in Perico Bayou. So I see those. I see a lot of brown pelicans, of course, annually. There's roseate spoonbills that are they're a bright pink bird. It's really neat to see their contrast against the mangroves in the backgrounds. There's plenty of herons. There's cattle herons. There's white egrets. There's cattle egrets. There's tricolored herons, great blue herons, which are the real big ones. There are night herons, which are primarily active at night, but I know that they're an endangered species. We see everything from birds of prey like osprey. I've seen American bald eagles that have been out here sunning themselves and hunting for mullet out here on the flats, which is always cool to see those big birds. But I know we have red-tailed hawks out here, but especially ospreys. They've made a big comeback in the recent years, so you see quite a few of those. If they were to develop out here, I think that the least that could happen is displacement of the wildlife that comes here. And of course, the worst that could happen would be, this is a place where they populate and they breed. And if you take that away, I mean, there are a few areas left in our area to where you know, they actually have a place to go and do that. And for hunting and feeding purposes, I mean, if you take away these flats and you change the ecosystem, the fish and the mullet stop coming here, well, naturally the birds are not going to have anything to eat if they still are in the area. So I think it's important that all things remain intact. In my opinion, what I'd like to see happen to the Long Bar Pointe area is nothing. I'd like for things just to stay the way they are. And I know that hundreds of thousands of Manatee County residents agree with me, the people that live here. The reason that a choice few want to develop this area is because they can build homes and draw people in and generate more money for themselves. But as for the residents that live here, aside from a choice few that want to make money, I think everybody wants to see it just the way it is. I don't see why you'd want to change something that's so beautiful and majestic and one of a kind for $1. Realistically, what I think will happen hopefully goes along with what I hope will happen, that, you know, people of like-minded interests that care about the resources and care about the environment here will come together and you know, do what it takes to stop development. Realistically, what I think will happen, unfortunately, what I've seen in the past is that the dollar seems to win. So hopefully, you know, that won't happen here. You know, I'm optimistic that things will stay the way they are. I'm optimistic, hopefully, that common ground can be reached, and if they're going to develop, they develop without disturbing the natural habitat that draws a lot of people here. So realistically, I'm sure that they'll develop, but hopefully, you know, they do it while undisturbing as much natural stuff as possible. In regards to the fish population and you know, the water life, aside from the bird life, you know, taking out the mangroves, I mean, this is all a natural habitat here for snook, redfish, trout, mullet, flounder. I mean, the list goes on, and it, you know, if you take away the habitat, naturally the fish are going to leave or be detrimented from it. You know, like I said, the oyster beds here filter out all the water, and it's a really nice, clean area here. And this is one of the top 5 spots where I come to do my fishing personally by myself, that I get a lot of enjoyment of. And I know that if you were to, you know, take that stuff away, that the area would definitely not be as good for fishing or just for habitat in general. I think in order to, you know, preserve what we have, I mean, development cannot be an option. That's the only other way. I mean, how else can you keep what's here? By not knocking it down.